I'm Barry Tramel with the Oklahoman. It's now been 20 years since Barry Switzer last was on the recruiting trail, but his stories have not paled. The tales remain vivid of how Switzer collected the talent that built the Sooner football dynasty. I sat down with Switzer a couple of days ago to reminisce about his days as one of college football's most dynamic recruiters. Well, it's been 20 years since you were in the recruiting game. Do you miss it?
Sometimes I do. You know, when I think about a lot of the players and a lot of the stories we talk about and the players that I see and their recruitment of, and we have a lot of laughs. It was a different era, Barry, when I recruited. So much has changed. I don't know the recruiting rules. The NCAA has evolved so much in that area that, and some of the rules I approve of, some I don't. But in the time that I recruited, it was kind of a free-for-all. You know, we were kind of non-restricted in what we could do. You could see a kid as many times as you want. Obviously, you could call him as many times. We didn't have cell phones. You couldn't text. So obviously, you're talking on a pay phone, or you're calling from home or where office, and it's so obviously you're not. It wasn't the bother that kids can have today. But it's overkill today with texting and the phone calls and messages, and I can see where the NCAA would want to limit that, and the player and then the parent would want it limited. But the best rule that I think that happened is that they kept head coaches from being the ones to go sign a player. I think that in my era, I had to juggle who I had to go sign, and I was always concerned about that who's going to ask me first, and making my commitment to them I'd have to live with. And the one I really worried about was 1974, when we were having a great recruiting year. Billy Sims was a top back in Texas, but Kenny King out of Clarendon was a great back, and as we all know now. And I'm thinking, I want both of them. I'm greedy, so I want them all. I want all the good ones. And I remember saying to Billy, I said, Billy, I got a great idea for you. I said, come signing date, I said, we want you, you need to hide out. You need to go be with your daddy in Houston. I get the phone number. No one knows where you are. No one will know where you are. And they're not going to be asking about you on signing date, because everybody's filling their sacks and they're signing everybody up. But when the smoke clears, everybody's going to say, well, what about Billy? Billy didn't sign. Where's Billy? And you know what? You'll get all the attention. And so all the papers, instead of you dividing all the signing date time with all these other blue chip players in the country, you will be the singular player left out there that hasn't signed, and you'll be given all the attention. Boy, Billy thought that was a heck of an idea. You know, I come up with. He didn't know my motive. So Billy goes. I don't know if you remember this now. Billy is hid out for a couple of days. No one knows where Billy is, and I go to Clarendon, Texas, and Texas A&M's trying to get to Kenny, so I'm hiding Kenny out. This is when you could hide kids out, you know, kind of hide them out, take them to pool hall or some beer joint or dance hall or somewhere. So he had his girlfriend, and Kenny and I and his girlfriend stayed out most of the night. And I checked them both into a motel room, and I got a room connected to them, and I parked my car. This is the hotels in that area in a town like Clarendon, Texas. You could drive the front of your car right up to the front door. You couldn't get in or out. Well, I turned my car sideways, where I made sure they had to climb over it, or anybody had to climb over to get in it, or they had to come through my room to get out. And I checked in that motel, and that's what I did that night with Kenny and the motel room, to make sure I signed him at 8 o'clock the next morning. At least I did that right. I didn't have him sign early and violate NCAA rules. But we stayed up and shot pool most of the night, some pool hall he liked to go to.